Today, our focus is on time management and how to take more of your time. Tell me, I'm curious, what is it about time management that frustrates you the most?
There's not enough time.
Everything seems to take longer than you think it's going to take.
Things take longer, absolutely, and there isn't enough time for sure. Anything else?
Determining which is the most important thing to start with.
And that's really important. And that's one of the things that we are going to work on, Megan, today is prioritizing what is the most important thing so that we are spending that time. Years ago, I worked for Dale Carnegie for 35 years, and there was an exercise that we used to do in leadership management class that was such an aha for people. So I want you to visualize, because I don't have the tools with me right now. Visualize a fishbowl, right? A big fishbowl about this size. And on my table here, I have large rocks. I have some small rocks. I have gravel. I have water. What happens if I put the water in first? Can I fit everything in there? Any idea?
No.
No.
Okay, so what order do they have to go in?
Isn't it the biggest stone first? Exactly. And then the smaller stones get packed in around them, and then water to the top?
Got to put the gravel in first and then the water, right? Because if you do it in any order other than that, big rocks, small rocks, gravel, and then the water, it won't all fit in. But if you do it in that order, you can get it all in there. And that's exactly the same with time management. We have to focus on the big rocks first, our most important things, then the smaller things, then the gravel, and then the water just takes care of itself. Okay. So in real estate, let's clarify. In real estate, what is our big rocks? What are the 5 things that are big rocks in real estate?
Would the first be lead generating?
Lead generation is one. That's right. This is a test. If you coach with me, if you've been coaching with me, you should know this answer. All right, everybody get a pen and pencil down, please. Hey, Zoya, can you turn your video on, please, so we can see your beautiful face? All right, here are your big rocks for real estate. Lead generation, lead follow-up, going on appointments, negotiating contracts, and script mastery. Those are your big rocks. Or we call it your job description. All 5 of those are money-making, money-generating activities. Everything else that we do can and should be leveraged in some form or fashion. So your job as a business owner is to start looking for how you can leverage those other things so you can focus on those 5 things. If you intend to make real estate your career where you're making a bunch of money so that you can live an amazing life for you and your family, those are the 5 things that you need to focus on. And the agents that are doing it at a very high level are focused on just those 5 things, and they leverage everything else. Okay, and they're consistent about it over time, which gives them, they're persistent and consistent in those 5 things. Does that make sense to you all? And I love that this is a female-dominated group. No offense, Bala, but you know, it's great to see all of these powerful women willing to take a charge of their life. So that's awesome. So as business owners, I'm going to talk to you as business owners today because you are. Okay. So as business owners today, there are 3 factors that are always pulling at us. They are time, cost, and quality. So I want to take a quick poll to see what you think. If we look at the business factors, which one of these three do you think impacts our business the most? Go ahead and you choose. All right, let's take a look at what you guys said. So 6 of you said time affects our business most, and 1 of you put quality. So I'm curious, of the ones that chose time, tell me why you feel like that has the most impact on our business. Anybody? You can unmute yourself. Come on.
I feel like if I don't manage my time well, then I don't put myself on the schedule. Real estate doesn't really happen in an orderly fashion for me.
Okay. All right.
It's managing my time so I can get all those things on my schedule properly.
Sure. Absolutely. Other thoughts about time and how it affects our business?
It's a opportunity cost. I could be doing something else as opposed to doing this. Right?
That's right. And as somebody mentioned, I think it was Wendy, everything takes a lot longer for us to do than we anticipate. And that is especially true for all of you that are newer agents. And I think on this call, almost everybody is a new agent, right? Or newer. Yeah, I think so. So everything's going to take you longer because you've never done it before. So, you know, I know the first time I inputted a listing, it took me hours. Now I can do it in 10 minutes. Okay. Same with DocuSign. The first time I did my contracts in DocuSign, it took me half a day to figure it out. Now I can whip out a contract in 10 minutes easy. So part of it is getting the expertise levels so that you can take less time, or finding a way to leverage it. Now I'm curious, the person that put quality, and there's no right or wrong answer to this, it's just interesting to have this conversation. Who put quality, and why did you choose quality as the most important factor? Yeah, Wendy?
Am I unmuted? I can throw all the time in the world at a project, but unless it's quality time, I don't often get the results that I'm looking for.
Okay.
So I feel that time is important, but if there's no quality in that time, then I just don't get the results.
Sure. So you want to make sure that it's top quality because that represents you and your brand, correct? And each of us have a brand that we
Definitely.
are establishing with our clients and our customers, and we want that to be a consistent message. There's nothing worse than working your butt off and having everyone bad mouthing you about your service because you do things poorly, or you take too much time to respond, or whatever, right? So it really matters very much what our quality of our product is, not just what we do, right? So I'm curious, if we're focused on the quality and making sure that we have a great quality customer service, how does it affect time and cost? Does it affect time and cost?
So I definitely think it would affect time and cost, both, but specifically, especially as a newer agent, time. In my opinion, I would rather have 5 really good quality conversations with people than 500. Hi, I'm Megan. I'm a new agent. Here's my contact info. Bye.
Sure.
Like I think that, and that will take more time probably to do those 5 quality conversations.
It truly does. It takes a whole lot more. You got to sort through a lot of those hi, I'm Megan's to get to those 5
Yes.
quality conversations, right?
Yes.
Sure. So it's going to affect time. Okay. How could it affect cost?
Overspending on marketing that really doesn't amount to much. I mean, it doesn't really offer you the services that you need to get you where you need to go. So cost is important, and where you're putting your quality of cost is important. I think we all make the little mistakes here and there just because you're in the learning curve of things, but the faster you can learn from it, the better. That's my theory.
Absolutely. I had one agent that spent 3 months working on their business card to get it just right. Okay, 3 months. And she picked the most expensive card there was, right? So it affected not only the time and the cost, just because she wanted to get the quality right. So you're right, it does affect it. So let's think about time. If I want to reduce my time on how it takes, how can that affect quality and cost?
Say that again,
You could be
Julianne.
doing,
Absolutely. If I want to reduce my time that I'm going to spend on any given thing, how could it affect the quality of my service or the time that I spend? I mean, the cost that I spend, sorry, time, quality, cost. Bala, you were going to say something.
yes, if you take too much time to put together one contract, and then instead, if you had some kind of training and got better at it, and then now you can do 10 contracts in the same time frame, right?
Exactly.
So it affects the cost and quality too.
It can, absolutely. Okay. If I want to reduce my time, I'm either paying more because I'm having somebody else do it, right? Or I might be just throwing it, like not putting a lot of effort into it if I'm not doing a lot of time myself. So it's going to affect it one way or the other. It'll affect my quality. It'll affect the cost. Now let's talk about cost. What if I'm trying to reduce my costs significantly and have it really, really frugal in my business? Can that affect the quality and the time that I spend? And if so, how?
It can increase the time.
In what way, Zoya?
You will need more time to process all your contracts, to discuss and negotiate all the details, because you will do it on your own.
Exactly.
And in some way, when you have a lot of contracts and a lot of detailed work to do, it affects the quality of work.
It can, right? It absolutely can. So the conversation around this, you may be wondering, how does this focus on time management? Well, it's important as business owners to realize that we juggle these 3 things every single day: the quality of our work, the time that we take to do it, and how much it costs. And if we're going to throw a bunch of money at something, it might reduce our time, but it also could affect our quality because we may not have control over it, right? You hire somebody, you're reducing your time that you're going to spend. Are they going to give you the same quality that you would do yourself? So there's always this balance that we're focused on as business owners. Today, we're going to spend most of our time focused on how do I prioritize those time, that time that we spend to be more effective. And the way we're going to do that is looking at tyranny of the urgent. I think it just help people to understand it the best. So I'm going to share my screen. Please let me know that you can see this. And you're going to want to get a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil to write it down. So we've got the apex there, and at the top we've got urgent and not urgent. And actually this should move over a little bit. There, that makes more sense. Okay, so we've got the urgent and not urgent, and important and not important. So you'll see that quadrant 1 are activities that are urgent and important. Quadrant 2 is activities that are not urgent and important. 3 is urgent and not important, and 4 is not urgent and not important. So we're working together right now to identify what goes in each of those quadrants. So think about the activities that we have to do in real estate, and you tell me what quadrant it needs to be in. So how about if we do this? Let's just start by listing activities that we do.
Lead gen.
Okay. And let me increase this so you can all see it. All right, next.
follow up.
Mhm. All right, what else?
Appointments.
Mhm. Okay, next.
Contracts.
Mhm. Okay, what else?
Script mastery.
Mhm. Okay. Let me help you. What else?
Making connections.
Mhm. What else?
Could reading and education be in there?
Absolutely. Okay, what else?
Personal time.
Okay,
Stop.
okay,
Prioritize.
prioritizing.
Yes.
Oops, sorry. Okay. Okay, what else?
Marketing.
Mm-hmm. I'm throwing some in here as I'm thinking of them. I hope that's all right. What about emergencies? Okay, other people's agendas. Client, oops, client appreciation. Building database. What else?
Managing other vendors or other people involved.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I'm sorry, somebody else was saying something during the managing vendors. What did I miss? We'll come up with some, we'll think of some others as we're going along. But I think this is a good start. So let's start here. So where do you think lead generation belongs? Which quadrant does it belong in?
Probably urgent.
Okay, but which one? Quadrant 1 or quadrant 2? Or you're saying quadrant 1 or quadrant 3?
1.
You're saying 1. Does everybody agree with her? That was Rachel, right, Rachel?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Does it belong in 1? What do you think?
I think it also depends where you're at with your business. Like for us, being newer, you would want to do that because if you don't have any leads, then you're not going to be able to do any of the other things.
That's true. Okay.
But maybe for people who already get leads, you know, the more experienced ones, then it wouldn't be in that quadrant.
So let's think about each of the quadrants for a minute. Urgent and important means I have to do this immediately, and it's absolutely critical for my business. Okay, it's like my number 1 priority. It has to be done.
Then I think it should be in quadrant 1.
Okay.
Definitely.
Quadrant 2 is it's absolutely important and critical for my business, but it's not urgent right this second. Okay. Now,
So doesn't that put it in 2? Because it's very important and you can schedule that time, but you don't have to do it immediately.
The answer is 2, believe it or not, the answer is 2. Unless, and here's why you know that. If it was urgent and important, you would all be lead generating 24 hours a day. Okay? Doing 10 to 20 contacts a day. And how many of you are doing that on a regular basis? It's not happening. It's most agents don't do it like they should. Okay? When it goes to 1, Rachel, and you're right, it can go to 1. It goes to 1 when you're not doing it regularly. If you're doing it consistently, it's important and you do it very consistently and persistently, it never has to go to 1. But if you stop doing it, it becomes urgent and important. I'll give you a great example. Most new agents, when they start off, they're working really, really hard. They're doing everything their coach is telling them to do, and they get their first client. And then all their focus is on that first client, and they're working on the contract and they're working on the paperwork and they're spending all this time talking all that, and they're so excited, right? And then it closes and they haven't been doing their consistent lead generation. And suddenly they have absolutely nothing in their pipeline and they're in panic mode because they're starting all over again. That's when it goes into quadrant number 1. Does that make sense to everybody? So quadrant 2 are the things that we're supposed to do on a regular basis, but it's not urgent that it's got to be done now. Important goes in there, right? When we don't do it on a regular basis. So how about follow-up? Where does that one go?
The same.
Probably the same.
Okay, it goes in.
Sorry.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. How about going on appointments?
I guess that also depends. Like, did your client call you and say, "Hey, I want to go look at this house right now"? Then I would say urgent, important 1.
Let's add showing property, shall we?
Okay.
Okay. So appointments. So appointments would be buyer consultations or listing appointments. Those are the real appointments, right? What quadrant do you think they belong in?
So 2, because they're scheduled.
Okay. How about writing contracts?
Isn't that 1, especially in this market?
Absolutely. I totally agree with you on that one. When you need to write a contract, you better get it going. Otherwise you're not going to even have a chance with your client for sure. How about script mastery?
2, because again.
Very true. How about business planning?
2.
I think 2.
You bet. Building relationships.
Also 2.
Also 2.
How about connecting with people?
Also 2.
Reading.
2.
Education.
2 again.
2.
Your personal time. This one's tricky. This one's very tricky.
I'm gonna go with 2.
Define urgent again, important, urgent, define what that is.
I'm sorry, say that again, please.
Can you define urgent, important again, just so I'm clear on what falls in that bucket?
It's an emergency. Urgent and important is an emergency. It has to be taken care of ASAP.
Then personal time I would put in number 2 because I can plan it.
Okay, and it is important, is it not? And that personal time includes family time as well, right?
Yes.
Or vacations, right? Absolutely. It's important. It's not urgent. Prioritizing. Ala, where do you think that one goes?
Among all, there are so many tools here. So this is a good example.
Mhm.
So we need to understand which one of those two is most important compared to others, right? So we need to prioritize those first.
That's right.
Or,
So prioritizing is a number 2 as well. How about negotiating contracts?
Would that be a 1 because writing the contracts is also important, and especially in this market?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. It's kind of a 1-2, but it definitely, oops, sorry, didn't mean that to be a date. We'll just put it as a 1. Ugh, stop. You all know what I meant with this. Is it gonna keep me and make me, that's a 1. Sorry about that. Marketing.
2.
2.
I'm gonna say 3.
Why are you saying 3, Joanna?
Well, it's because it is important to do, but if you're doing maybe all the 2s and 1s, then getting marketing out there might not be as important. Not saying it's not important. I hate that "not" word. But
It's not a priority.
not right. If you're doing, I mean, you have 1 million clients because you call so many people, then marketing might not be an issue for you. Like maybe you don't have to do marketing.
Yeah. I'll give you a good example. When I first joined, started real estate, I did not have a business Facebook page. In fact, I've only had a business Facebook page now for 3 years. Didn't need it. I had no social presence at all online. Wasn't important. I didn't even have a database. I was just using my phone, right? My phone as my database. But I was focused on it and I was making money. It was not important at that time. I was just focused on making money. And then as time went over, then I leveraged that to be able to get it. So I think it could be a 2 or a 3. Now, if you don't have a big network,
Yeah.
and you're trying to rely on marketing to build up yours, it could be a 2. It could even be a 1 if you haven't been doing anything and you're in panic mode. Marketing could be your 1, right? But I think for most of us, marketing and social media would probably be a 3 if we're doing those other things. And I would agree with you, Joanna, on that. How about returning emails and phone calls? Where do those go?
1.
1.
I think they're going to be a 1 or a 3. Would you agree with that?
Right. Just
And
not need.
email and texts, right? And I know that because if your phone dings, what's the first thing you're going to do? Even if you're somebody else, you're going to check your phone. So there's definitely urgency involved in it. It's just a matter of whether it's important or not. So one thing that I've learned to do is I ask people to text me. And if I glance at my phone and I see a text by somebody that's important, I'll check to see whether or not it's important or not that I respond to them immediately. And if it's not, it goes in number 3 and it can wait. Right? So you got to make that decision rather than just assume that it's all critical, urgent and important. All right. So we'll do that with 1 and 3 as well. And we're going to add email and text here because I think they're the same. All right, doing your contract to close, urgent or important? Where does that one go? And by contract to close, I mean, once you get it under contract, all the paperwork, all the minutia that has to happen in order to get it to close.
I would be like a 1 if it has a deadline, like if you have to get it the next day. But some things can wait, like till you get closer to closing.
All that stuff is 1 and it's also number 2. Okay, because it's urgent or it's important, but it may not necessarily be urgent. And I mean, it doesn't have to be done today, but there's a lot of stuff that goes on. Okay. Emergencies, I think you all know where that one goes, right?
1.
It's in 1. Other people's agendas.
I would say 2.
In what way?
Because, well, maybe 2 or maybe even 4, depending on who the person is and what their agenda is. You know, if someone just wants to catch up for an hour, that's not really urgent or important. But if someone wants to talk about business, that could be important, but not necessarily. I guess it could be a 1, 2, 3, or 4.
It really could.
Depending, you know, on who it is.
So let's put, for the most part, I'm going to put a 4 and a 3, and here's why. Because when people call us or text us or whatever, and they're, especially like clients do this a lot. They're in panic mode. They need to talk to you immediately. But do they really? Is it absolutely critical, important that they talk to you right that minute, or can it wait? So part of it is setting expectations for our clients as well of when we're going to follow back up with them, so that they don't, because otherwise I'm letting you all know, they are going to be calling you and texting you 10, 11, 12, 2 o'clock in the morning. You'll be surprised. I mean, some of these people have no boundaries at all. So it's our job to help them set boundaries on when we're going to work and how we're going to work. Letting them know that you take a day off. It's okay to take a day off, right? And once you do that, it's fine. All right, client appreciation.
Isn't that 2? That's pretty important for referrals.
Absolutely. All right, and building your database.
I would say 2.
Managing vendors.
It can be 1 or 2.
I think it's going to be 1 or 3 for the most part. It feels urgent, especially if you're dealing in a contract. If you're talking about just staying on top, you're talking about, like, if I understand correctly, when you're saying managing vendors, you're talking about a contract situation where they are coming in and they're like inspectors and pest control and electricians or whatever. So there's a definite sense of urgency because you've got the contract and you've got deadlines with it. But it may or may not be important, because depends on whether it's really your job or if it's your client's job. And a lot of us are taking on our clients' responsibilities and taking them on ourselves, thinking we have to do them. Okay. All right. Showing property. Where does that one go? How did that happen?
Again, in this market, it could be a 1, right? You have to get in and get that contract written.
Okay. Could it be another one?
2.
It could be a 2. Can it be a 3?
Nope.
Yeah, person maybe isn't qualified or really interested or have any need.
Yeah. Hey, I want to see this property. Are you pre-qualified? No, I'm not pre-qualified yet, but I really want to see this property, right? Or a friend that says, hey, can you show me this house? They make it urgent. They want you to drop everything and go show this property, but they have no intention of buying it, right? So it could fit in any one of those. So I'm curious, which of these quadrants is it that we should be living in and spending most of our time in?
2.
2.
The answer is 2. So my question is, which one of these quadrants do you spend most of your time in?
Right now, 2, because I'm in Ignite.
There you go, because they're making you focus on education, right?
I'm somewhere in between 1, 2, and 3.
And I will tell you that the majority of people, when they are honest with themselves, spend most of their life in 1 in 3. In one, everything is urgent. Everything has to happen right now. Everything has got this huge sense of urgency, where we should focus more on the important stuff. Because quite honestly, if we focus on the stuff in 2, it doesn't become urgent. Or it doesn't go into 3, it stays in 2. So let's talk about 4 for a minute. What activities would go in quadrant 4?
Netflix.
There you go. Downtime. What else?
Constantly going through Facebook, just, social media, browsing.
Cruising the Facebook. That's right. Candy Crush. My aunt loves Candy Crush. Here's the point, though, about quadrant number 4. Is there a purpose for quadrant 4?
Yes.
Tell me what that purpose is.
Isn't that downtime?
Yeah. We need our brain to be able to reset. Okay, especially if you're juggling a lot of things. Y'all know that I've done 2 full-time jobs for 35 years. I have to have a little downtime in between to reset my brain, because it's difficult to jump from one thing to the other and do it effectively if you don't break it up and let your mind, it's like letting a computer reboot. It needs to reboot once in a while. So quadrant 4 is, even though it says it's not important, it is, in some instances, it is important to our life to help us to maintain our sanity. We just don't want to spend all of our time in quadrant 4, right? There's nothing more frustrating as a coach than to talk to people that I know have just been sitting on the couch watching TV and eating bonbons and saying, "Oh, I love real estate. Real estate's awesome. I got all this free time." Freedom and flexibility, they're 2 things that agents say that they want in real estate. Well, that does not mean sitting on the couch and watching Netflix, right? It means doing some activities in quadrant number 2. So Bala mentioned something very interesting. A lot of the things that we do belong in quadrant number 2, right? So how do we prioritize those? And since most of you guys are newer agents, let's talk about what is our priority. So what do you think we need to prioritize? How do we prioritize?
I did a Quan training class the other day, and it was can't think of her name, but anyway, she was talking about she sold 100 homes, over 100 homes in a year, and I think in her session she talked about how she prioritized her day, because that was a focus. Like, people were like, how do you get that done? Like, that seems like a lot of houses to get sold in such a short window in a year. And so she basically outlined how she organizes her day and puts time slots for everything. Right. So she says, from 9 to 11, I'm just making this up, 9 to 11, she does lead generation. And then from 11 to noon, let's say, she's doing her follow-up. And then 1 to 4, she's going on appointment, but that's her normal routine. And then she basically said that, she explained that I start at 9 because I'm not an early bird. And I also set time slot because I want to make sure that people understand that I cut my day off too, because I have priorities and family and things of that nature. And I just took that and I really realized that I probably need to do the same thing, because you find yourself one day you're doing lead generation in the morning, the next day you're doing lead generation in the afternoon. And then it's like you're all over the place because you're not organizing your day. Sure. But ever since I implemented that strategy, I find myself being a little bit more organized in my day, feeling like I've accomplished something. Exactly. And it's just provides me more structure mentally, because I have young kids, and 3 o'clock they're home. I have homework, I have dinner, I have, that's right, things happening in my day. But I need to use the time that I do have without them the best way I can. So okay.
And that was a good point. If you're being smart about your time management and doing things consistently around the same time, it does become a habit, and habits take a good 66 days to create, right? But if you're doing it on a regular basis, then it becomes so much easier and it becomes a consistency thing. And that's critical. A good point, Deja. Other suggestions. How do we figure out what's important? Of all the stuff that's number 2, because we know it's important, it's in that category. How do we prioritize what's first?
I would say just going through it and figuring out where you are in your career. So for me, the number 1 would be lead gen. I got to make sure I'm doing lead gen. And then from there, maybe prioritize, like you put reading and education. It's definitely a number 2, but maybe that can be done before you go to bed at night, 9 o'clock while you're laying in bed, 10 o'clock, so I think you could just look at all of them and figure out what your day looks like and try to stick to it of what you need to do to get things done.
Sure, absolutely. Remember at the beginning of the session, I told you there were 5 things, our job description. Don't you think those are your first 5 priorities? They should be, right? And they all 5 of them are in quadrant number 2. So lead gen, lead follow-up, going on appointments, negotiating contracts, and script mastery. Those 5 should definitely be in your priority now, okay? Now, part of that, for example, business relationships or building relationships is part of lead generation, right? It just is. Hosting open houses, we didn't put that on there, but that is lead generation, okay? So a lot of what we do falls under the category of lead generation. I just want to make sure you all realize that, because lead generation is not picking up the phone. I want to clarify. It's not picking up the phone and cold calling people. It can be part of that, but that's not just that. Lead gen is connecting to people and having conversations about real estate. Okay? Mass emails is not lead generation. That's marketing. Okay? Mass texts, not necessarily lead generation. That also is marketing. Unless you're getting a conversation back and forth, that's lead generation. We want that conversation, whether it's on text, whether it's on messenger, email, phone, in person. You want that connection to people, okay? So let's talk for a minute about some time robbers, things that get in the way of us managing our time, because we all said we don't have enough and it seems like everything takes a lot longer. Well, why are we able to not? Why are some people more efficient at it, I guess I should say, than others are? So what gets in the way? So we have both internally or self-generated factors, and we have external factors. So let's talk about some self-generated factors that get in the way of good time management. One is a lack of good organization. Years ago, I read an article on Feng Shui, and I always thought that was really like, right? And then when I read it, it made so much sense to me, because it said there's 2 kinds of chaos. There's static chaos and there's active chaos. Static chaos is the junk and the stuff that lays around your environment. And when it builds up, it actually affects your ability for your mind to have active chaos. Active chaos is where we're creative and where we get things done. So if you're living in an environment that is extremely static chaos, you're actually inhibiting your ability to be creative and to be efficient. Does that make sense to everybody? It was mind-blowing to me. And then I started thinking back in my life when I mean, as a kid, I even remember I would get to a certain point and I couldn't stay in my bedroom. I had to go and clean. And once it was clean, I just felt so much better. I had a weight that was lifted, right? So just good organization and having everything in its place can give you a lot of great synergy and mind energy. Procrastination. Some of us are really good at that, right? Some of us feel like we're really good when we're on the nth degree. As Wendy mentioned, unrealistic time estimation of how long the job is going to take. as newer agents, you've got to assume that it's going to take you a while, and you've got to plan for that, right? First couple times that you do something, it is going to take you a little bit longer. And then once you get good at it, it significantly reduces your time. Trying to do too much. Okay. And there's several of us that know that no is not a very good answer. We don't know how to say that very well, right? Lack of delegation. You all are business owners, and many of you may think, well, I'm by myself, so I can't delegate. Well, yeah, you can. There's some tools that you can use to delegate so that you don't have to do it, and you've got more time on your hands. Making quick decisions that backfire, that can affect it and actually create more time issues. Not listening, no motivation, lack of planning, making all decisions by yourself, no system of self-accountability, not maintaining a daily list of projects that you need to focus on. I always have by my side a list of things that I'm going to accomplish that day or that week. And I tick it off, and I'm always updating it and clearing it because I like it to look clean. I have gotten to the point where I stopped putting stuff that I've already done so that I could scratch it off. But I used to do that just because it made me feel good. Oh, look what all I accomplished, right? But I definitely have a priority list in front of me all the time. And lack of creative effort. So those are some self-generated time robbers. What are some externally imposed factors of time management or time robbers? Give me some ideas.
When you're building relationships and you're having conversations, and that person kind of goes on and on and on, and the next thing you know, you're giving them a good portion of your day or your time that you, because you're so scared to say, okay, well, and to find a closing point in the conversation. So I think that's an external.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there are some people that love to keep talking, right? Okay. What else?
When you're in a Zoom meeting right now and your husband and all your children come walking in to tell you what's going on, and I'm going, can you not see I am on a call?
Not really. Mine has been my puppy lately. He loves to come in the door, and he has to be right behind me with his squeaky toy. It's like, see me, see me, see me. It's like, ah! Yeah, he gets in the way a little bit. All right, what else gets in the way?
So going along with both of those, other people's agendas get in your way.
For sure, for sure. What else? I don't know about you, but my iPad and my phone are my biggest time robbers. Mine has a feature. I don't know if yours has a feature where every day on Sunday, it lets me know what my usage has been, whether it's up or whether it's down, and how much screen time I spent. It's really scary how much screen time that it is. I love when it's down. When I went on vacation the end of September, y'all, there are days that I didn't have my phone with me at all, which was awesome. My screen time went down like 70%. And I thought, oh, this is scary, because I mean, it was still, a significant amount of time, but I didn't realize how much I was on my phone. My husband goes, well, yeah, I mean, you're always got your face in your phone. That was a huge aha for me, because I did not realize, because it's always here. And so I'm always just checking it, I just check it for a second just to see, but spent a lot of time on my phone. So here's some other ones you may be thinking about. Telephone interruptions or texts, right? Meetings. Now, as an individual agent, you may not have meetings, but let's think, there's a lot of training, right? And it interrupts your schedule, because like, oh, I got to attend this one, or oh, I got to attend that one. It does interrupt the flow of your day. And when you're blocking your time, does it not? You all can shake your head like this, because I do know that it does. It's important to get into that and to understand it, but it does get in the way. Social visiting, as Deja mentioned, other people's deadlines that Megan mentioned, unexpected delays, mistakes that others have made. That's a big one in real estate. I mean, it's not the contract itself that's difficult in real estate. It's all the little minutia to get to the closing table. the little stuff. And I'm not talking about the paperwork. I'm talking about attitudes and emotions and mistakes that other people make and people not following through with their deadlines and you trying to manage all of that. I mean, that's where the chaos comes in my life, is that little bitty minutia stuff. That's the craziness. Poor communication can affect it. Paperwork and reports. Responding to crisis, for sure. Customer complaints, again, a big one. Too much routine work. Now, routine work in our world, in my opinion, is contract to close. And that's all that little bitty paperwork. Now, some of you may be a really high C as far as your DISC profile, so you love all that paperwork, and you need to rethink whether that's something that you should do by focusing on your 5 things, right? And then unexpected interruptions. So all of those get in the way. So what are some tools that we have? There are no new tools in time management. There's none. But we're going to talk about some specific tools that we have that can help us have more control over our life. And Deja mentioned one of them, and that is time blocking. So which of the quadrants are we blocking in our day? 1, 2, 3, or 4? Quadrant 2, that's correct. We block out quadrant 2 activities. The others will take care of themselves. Okay, so lead generation, our training needs to go on there, our lead follow-up, our appointments, showing property. So I want you guys to, in your calendar, you should already have your lead generation time, your lead follow-up time, when you're going to do appointments. And I'd have them blocked out. So when you finally get somebody that wants to meet with you, great. I have Tuesday and Thursday or Saturday morning, which is best for you. And you tell them the times and you let them fit into your schedule. If you don't have appointments on those days, what should you do?
Lead generation.
Exactly. Because if you don't have the appointments to fill, you've got to continue to build to fill it. Those blocks can be used for either listing appointments, buyer consultation appointments, or for showing property. So you can block those out and you've got them in your schedule. Perfect. Okay. Next is a time log. Now, a time log is a way to analyze how we're spending our day. If you're finding that you are just not getting enough done and you don't know where the day is gone, sometimes the most important thing we can do is to analyze it. So take a day or two and set an alarm on your phone for every 15 to 30 minutes, whatever you want. Every time that phone goes off, you're going to analyze what's happened in those last 15 to 30 minutes and jot it down and what quadrant it was in. After a day or two, then you're going to look back and you're going to analyze and go, oh, well, here's where I was wasting all of my time. Okay. Or here's where I was getting off track. Or here's where I'm the most productive in my day. Does that make sense to you all? So as a business owner, we analyze how we're spending our time so then we can learn how to batch tasks. And batching tasks is by combining things that are alike. It's a powerful tool, and that's the tool number 3. So we've got time log, we've got time blocking, and we've got batching tasks. So think about this. I'm lead generating. Hey, I think I'm going to call Susie. Susie's a good friend of mine. So I call Susie and we chat for a minute and I talk to her about real estate. You know, there's a for sale by owner down the street. Let me call that for sale by owner. So I'm going to call that for sale by owner. Oh, well, I had a couple of people at the open house. Let me follow up with them. Does that make sense to you guys? If that's the way I'm lead generating? Bala, you're shaking your head no. Why not?
So you are just randomly reacting. You are not structured, right?
Exactly. So, and I've got no rhythm, right? So the goal is to batch the tasks together so that there's a rhythm to what you're doing so you become better at it. The people that are script masters, they don't switch from script to script to script. They're focused on one. So they do all of their follow-up calls all together. They do all of their touching their database all at once. They do all of their for sale by owner calls all in one batch, right? Because once you've got into a rhythm, it's so much easier to remember your scripts. You get into a better flow. Does that make sense to all of you? The same is true about let's say you're talking to a client and they go, hey, can you set me up on a portal? So you get off on that phone call, and rather than get back on the phone to talk to somebody else, you jump on to FMLS and you set up their portal, or you send them a business, write a card. Why not do all of your calls first? And after you're done with your calls, write all of your letters, create all of your portals. So you're doing it all at the same time. Do you see how that could save you money, save you time? It's huge. It's a huge tool. And I don't think we take advantage of it because we think we have to close out that account. Now, if you're worried you're not going to remember, well, you've got a sheet and you just put down here the people that you're going to write cards for, or the portals you're going to set up or whatever. And then afterwards on your follow-up, that's when you get into doing that, that activity. All right. So we've got a time log to identify. We're blocking our time for our quadrant 2 activities so that we're doing them effectively. We're batching our tasks so that we're doing the same things together to be more efficient. Another tool that we have is called priority list. I showed you mine, right? But it's not just a to-do list, it's a priority list. And on it, it has it broken down by ABC. You'll notice that mine is broken into sections. That's because these are, I must accomplish this today. This is important and urgent, right? This is important but not urgent, and this is not urgent but important. So I'm going to finish these first. If I can get to this one, great. But if not, it's going to roll over to tomorrow, and these as well. Okay. So I've prioritized it so that I know sometimes it's easy to pick the easy stuff first, and that's not necessarily the important stuff, right? So you want to make sure you're prioritizing them to get the best bang for your buck in time management. The last tool that we have to help us is delegation. How can delegation be a time management tool? What do you think?
Because you're wiping something off your plate. I mean, if like when you have a contract, you hire contract close company. I mean, as soon as you're under contract and everything is good, that's pushed aside to someone else. I'm not saying you have to follow up, but you're not doing all the work.
Not doing all the minutia stuff, right? Right. So the best way as business owners to identify if you should delegate something is, can you pay somebody minimum wage or less than you make per hour? And if the answer is yes, then it's probably something that you should delegate. Okay. For example, a lot of people, there's certain people that love newsletters. They love to create a newsletter and send it out to their clients. Do you know how much time and effort it takes to gather the information and to format and to do all that? To me, it just makes my heart like I get an ulcer thinking about it. I love to do that kind of stuff, but would I spend the time to do it? Absolutely not. I would pay somebody to do that. I have somebody that I pay monthly to do my social media. So all my posts, those of you that follow Soul by Julianne, I pay somebody to do all that. Why? Because it's not important. It's important, but it's not urgent. So it's in quadrant 3. And I know that by having somebody do it for me, it frees me up to focus on what I need to focus on. Okay. So being able to delegate is a skill. And for those of us that are control freaks, delegating is not an easy thing. And once you've done it and someone's been very successful at it, you realize, wow, that's cool. Here's another great way. Think about this, how you can delegate as an agent. As you start getting busier, and you will be, I promise, you're juggling your family, you're juggling your kids, you're juggling your career, and you're juggling your clients. At some point, you're going to be so busy, you're going to need people to help you. So why not delegate and have a showing assistant? Some of you guys have been doing that. Joanna's done that for me and a couple people, right? So you're going to get to that point where you're going to want to do that. Now, your first knee-jerk reaction is going to say, oh, but they can't represent me as well as I can represent myself, right? Then you've just got to train them or teach them, this is how I work with my clients. This is the expectation. This is what I want. You help create that as a business owner. You help create that. Make sense? So you can leverage social media. You can leverage your contract to close, which I totally encourage you to do. You're still responsible for the deadlines, but they will do all the paperwork for you. You can leverage showings when you start getting busy. You can leverage open houses. Most of the agents that have listings don't hold their open houses. And that's great for you all as new agents because you've got opportunities. Joanna is hosting one for me this weekend. Okay. It's a great opportunity to build your client base. And we still get the exposure for the house. Okay. So even as a new agent, there are ways for you to have a team. You've got delegation. You're delegating even with your loan officers that you work with, right? You're not the end all be all. You're not exposed to have all of that information. But whenever anybody asks me specifically about loans and interest rates or anything, you know what? That's a question for the loan officer. So you talk to them. It doesn't mean I'm shirking my responsibility. I'm not supposed to give them information on that, right? So I'm delegating that over to them. Inspections. Okay. I don't attend my own inspections. That is the responsibility of the client to be there with the inspector. There are rare instances if they're out of state, out of town, they can't be there, that I will show up. But for the most part, I don't attend those inspections. I review the inspection report with them, and then we go on. Does all that make sense? So you get some tools at your disposal to be able to delegate your time. So we've covered a lot in an hour. What questions do you have about time management?
My biggest question, and this is the issue that I'm struggling with, is setting up a day off for myself.
Day off, okay. What is so hard about it, Zoya?
I can't stop. I think that even on Sunday or on an official holiday, I have to respond to every person, every client. And if I have free time to schedule a meeting, showing something with them.
Sure. So part of it is making a decision on how you're going to run your business and then sticking to it. You'll notice as you're calling other agents, you'll see that a lot of them say, if you're calling after 7 p.m., I will respond the next business day. You're setting an expectation and you just need to follow up with it and live to it, right? If you're struggling with taking a whole day off, try taking a half a day off. Can you do that?
Probably.
Take 2 half days off. There's no right or wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if it makes you feel better that, hey, I did my work, now I can go play, that's awesome. The biggest challenge that we have as real estate agents, honestly, is that freedom and flexibility piece. Because you go the whole day and you get crazy with all this other stuff that gets in the way. At the end of the day, you don't feel like you've accomplished anything because you haven't focused on those 5 things. And then you let it go and you start fresh, and then it happens over and over and over again. And next thing you know, 1 month, 3 months, 6 months have gone by and you've got no business yet. And you're feeling frustrated because you're not getting anywhere. Part of it is because you're fooling yourself into thinking that you're busy, right? Busy. Busy work is not working in real estate. It's not those 5 things. That's the key. But you need to take some time off. And if it means a half a day, take a half a day. Take a half a day here and a half a day there. Okay? Because quite honestly, as real estate agents, weekends are our busiest time. So it may not be reasonable to take a day off during the day, but you could maybe take 2 half days. Okay? All right. So what's one thing, based on our conversation today, one thing that you're going to do differently to take control over your time and be more efficient at it? Megan, what's your goal?
I'm definitely going to get serious about time blocking. Everyone has said you should time block, and I have it in my calendar, but I don't always live by it, and I'm going to get serious about doing that.
And so now not only are you going to time block your quadrant 2 activities, you're actually going to follow through with it, and that's the most important thing. Right. Awesome. Deja, how about for you?
I think for me, I've done the time blocking. That was my number 1 priority for the year, for the beginning of the year, to get that organized. So for me, it's delegation. While I don't have all these clients, I do find that I spend too much time trying to social media, trying to make a platform myself, the marketing side of things. So trying to delegate that out where it makes sense and budget myself so I can do so. And
Deja, you may even want to think about delegation in your personal life. What can you delegate to your husband, to your children? Let them have.
I wish that's a whole nother conversation, but I wish.
Yeah. Okay. So many of us have to be all things to all people. So a lot of it's looking at your whole life and what can you, right? How can you give share the love, right?
I hear you.
Rachel, how about for you?
I think I just need to get better at prioritizing my time with the lead gen. For lack of a better word, I'm like kind of spastic, how you like said it, where it's like, oh, let me text this follow up, or like, oh, I need to go post this closing on social media or something like that. It's just like whatever idea comes to my head, I'm like, oh, I need to do that right now. So I just need to like outline it better and do everything at once.
Awesome. Batching those tasks is really going to give you a lot more time. I promise you.
I'm doing a little bit better with time blocking now. And the second thing I'm focusing on right now is prioritizing in these time blocks.
There you go. Absolutely. Janice, how about for you, dear?
Yes, the last thing that you talked about with the batching and active chaos, when you're organized behind the scenes every day, things do flow so much better. And I think to stay on top of it and stay organized, and the foundational stuff allows you to, more time and, like you said, be more creative with the other things.
Cool. Awesome. Bala, how about for you, sir?
So these are all very good points. I was struggling with what are the different activities I need to catch up with. So this is a good list to start with. I have already started using my daughter as my marketing person. She's an undergraduate in Emory. She's putting the marketing plan together for me. She created a video for me.
Great.
So all these things are in place. So
that's right.
So good. I need to be more structured with all the different things that you helped us to identify. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Wendy, how about for you?
Definitely time blocking and prioritizing.
Okay.
Speaking of which, trying to get my child out the door.
Out the door, yes, that's okay.
Right this instant.
We understand. Joanna, last but not least.
Yeah, mine is definitely the batch tasking, because I'm same thing. I have a list and then I'll jump off of it and what have you. So definitely batch tasking.
Okay. All right. So now that you have your goal of what you're going to focus on, spend some time today getting it organized so that tomorrow you hit the ground running and you're doing it on a consistent basis. Okay. Awesome, y'all. It was a great session. Thanks so much for your participation, and go make your time work useful. Okay. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you later. Bye.
Good day.
Thanks, you too.
Bye.